Good morning. I'm joined this morning by
Morning.
Cindy Engel, who's going to be one of the lecturers at the Shiatsu Summit 2025 in Vienna. Good morning, Cindy.
Morning. Lovely to see you.
Same here. I'd like to ask you a couple of questions so the people have can have an idea of what they can expect from your workshop
Sure.
uh, in September. So my first question would be, what is your personal connection and experience with the summit topic of chronic fatigue, depression, and burnout?
Okay, so um, it's interesting because I've had two periods in my life which I would call a burnout,
Mm.
where things just completely stopped working. Unable to speak, unable to write, my nervous system just completely overloaded. And I've also had post-viral fatigue for a long time from my 30s. Um, so I've and bouts of depression. Now, what's interesting is that my topic, well, it's not that interesting actually, but it's relevant. My topic um, is chosen because it relates back to my personal experiences of these. So, for example, I had no idea why I was suffering from bouts of burnout and depression. Why would I be more susceptible to this than anybody else? So then I started training in Shiatsu, and it became apparent that I was very readily picking up other people's emotions when I was working on them. And I was also picking up what was going on physiologically for them. So I'd be picking up pain and stuff like that. And at the time, I was told to just ignore it, carry on. It's not important. But it was kind of important to me because it kind of explained to me why I was getting easily overwhelmed, why I was burning out in a teaching in school situation, because I was particularly susceptible to emotional contagion, pain contagion, physiological synchrony, all these things that I'm going to be talking about in the workshop, is that neuroscientists have discovered now what actually goes on between people, even though most of us are not aware. Now, the thing is, some of us are more aware than others of these changes, and I'm particularly aware of when my internal state changes. And as are lots of people, and particularly shiatsu practitioners, because we are particularly sensitive people. Anyway, I'll be talking about what recent scientific explorations have discovered about physiological synchrony, what happens between people when they interact. So your heartbeat starts to come into synchrony, your breathing comes into synchrony, even your brain starts to couple with theirs. And of course, this matters because if you're working with people who are um, not in a really good state of health, mentally and physically, and if you're working with them all the time, then and you're physiologically syncing with them all day, then you have to have some kind of mechanism for putting that right, and for reducing the impact on your own health. So there's lots of work looking at therapists who work with trauma, for example, and the impact of vicarious trauma or secondary trauma, which is just the fact that we coordinate with people while we're working with them, and you can see that this could be a problem. So I'm going to be in the workshop. I'm going to be there's going to be illustrated talk. So I'll be explaining what the science is telling us. And the reason I'm interested in what the science is telling us rather than our experience is that the science tells us how it works, how the mechanism works. And once we know how it works, we can modulate it, we can tone it down. So I can turn down the dial of somatic empathy. So I can turn down my propensity to sync up with you while I'm working on you if you're a client. And I can turn it up so that I can feel I can share what's going with you. But you can only do that if you know what the mechanisms are. So we're going to be exploring what neuroscience has got to show us about that. So there're going to be practical sessions and little discussion groups as well. So there'll be individual work, group work, and um, illustrated talks, a mixture.
Very interesting. If I listen to you, there's a lot of points where I'm like, as a shiatsu practitioner myself, I'm already looking forward to hear it. This is something I think we all can benefit from very much. And
Well, it's
yeah,
yeah, and also for knowing that a lot of our clients, when they come to us with problems, are suffering from this. They're suffering from the fact that they are particularly sensitive, somatic, uh, to somatic empathy. So for example, if I'm treating a client who is chronically stressed and she doesn't know why, and she then happens to mention that, her husband has an anxiety disorder, and it's well, okay.
mm,
So it gives you more information in order to help our clients who can be suffering from this problem. So it isn't just about us self-regulating as therapists, but it's having more information about what's going on for your clients as well.
mhm.
Mm.
So one very important part obviously seems to be to learn how to deal with the volume control
Yeah, totally.
on the level of perception.
Yeah, and to not be scared of it. I mean, if you don't understand how it works, I mean, at the moment, there's quite a few very sensitive individuals who give up being shiatsu practitioners because they get overwhelmed and they take on too much of
Mm,
everything that's going on for everybody else, and they give up and they walk away. And it's a shame because you can learn to turn it down, and it's very useful to be that sensitive. And you don't want to be burnt out the whole time by other people's stuff.
certainly not.
No.
And apart from learning about volume control, what else do you think is particularly interesting for the practitioners when they come to your workshop? Like a little teaser, maybe?
A little teaser. Well, I think it's going to, I hope, I imagine it's going to provide a lot of aha moments of like, so that's what's, that's what's going on. Um, for me, exploring all the sort of, because I'm not a physiologist, but I've been reading all the research by physiologists, people who are sticking electrodes on bodies and monitoring what's going on. And for me, that has explained a lot of things that's happening experientially,
Mm,
and I think it's really useful for us practitioners to be empowered with the knowledge because, for example, if you don't understand how it works, you can be scared of some clients who make you feel awful. So I no longer work with clients who have a lot of psychotic episodes because it's too disturbing for me. And if I didn't understand the mechanism, there are explanations that aren't very helpful, like, this person has bad energy or this person is toxic and, so on. And it makes you more of a victim of like, I'm being taken over by this bad person. Whereas you're not. It's a completely different mechanism and it gives you back your power to be able to deal with people in very difficult situations without necessarily getting that contagion.
hmm mm. Also a very important point, I think. It's good. I like how you pointed out. I think it's not easy to work with shiatsu if you're in a like defensive position,
No,
right?
no. If you're remotely scared or, the idea of putting a protective bubble around yourself, I mean, there's no way that's going to work knowing what we know
Mm,
about how
mm,
how the mechanism works, and being defensive is also going to heighten your body's simulation of other people because it gets into um, let's get more information about this person. So when you're fearful, your unconscious goes, let's get more information so we know what kind of threat there is. And that makes somatic empathy much stronger.
Hmm.
So, it's really important to kind of um, change the framework that we have about what's happening between us, and shift it away from this idea that you're catching other people's energy and get a more uh, empowered vision of what's going on.
Empowerment, huh? That's a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
way to put it, huh? In the beginning, you mentioned how you at some point became aware of how you pick up a lot of emotions and sensory sensations from other people, and how it sort of started to sometimes overwhelm you. How did you learn to cope with it? I mean, that's pretty much one of the core aspects of what you teach, obviously. So how did you come about learning how to control that or how to
Yeah.
work with it?
It's been a long time. I mean, I've been doing this 25 years, and it was about 20 years ago that I um, had a particularly interesting experience with a client of knowing she was really near death, and there was no indication of that. And I was so alarmed by this insight of imminent death that I said, please go to your doctor on the way as soon as you leave here. Just trying not to scare her. But it was a really strong alarm bell. And she did go to her doctor, and her doctor did see her, and he said she was fine. And he said, don't listen to these ridiculous shiatsu practitioners that don't know what they're talking about, as you would. But she did die within 2 days of a heart attack. And that set me off thinking, okay, I've got to look at this.
Mm.
It's no good you saying, oh, you pick up things and that's amazing. And it's no, as a scientist, I want to know how that's happening. So then I got into like, what is biology? What is psychology? What is psychobiology saying about this sort of thing? And that's opened a whole can of worms of research, 4 years worth of research, and ending up with writing the book Another Self. Um, because I discovered that people are looking at this. They are looking at Scientists are looking at this ability to read each other unconsciously. Social perception research is massive, and yeah, and I found a lot of work using dogs to detect cancer, dogs to detect psychotic episodes, and it's like, okay, so all us animals have got this ability to unconsciously read each other's health and intentions really quickly and it's just a matter of how do we get that nice and clear, and how do we know, the big question which we are going to address in the workshop is how do you know what's yours and what's theirs?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Can you once again say the name of the book, the title of the book?
Another Self.
Okay, good. Whoever is
And
interested, go
the
get the book.
sub the subtitle is how your body helps you understand others.
Hmm.
And it's this thing of like, yeah. Anyway, I can't summarize a book in one sentence,
If you
but
want to learn more, come to the workshop, come to the summit, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
All right. So one last question from my side. If you're thinking about coming to Vienna, what are you particularly looking forward to?
Me?
Yes, you personally.
Um, wow. I'm looking forward to being with like-minded people, because I, yeah, I'm self-employed, live out in the middle of nowhere. I think it's just wonderful to get together with a load of shiatsu practitioners and a bunch of people who are really exploring this really interesting an important topic of uh, of burnout and chronic fatigue and depression. It's we've got to look at it, and we've got to look at it, pool our resources.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Very well, wonderful. I'm looking forward to seeing you here in Vienna. And thank you very much indeed for taking the time to talk with me. Thanks a lot.
you're welcome. Thank you for inviting me. I'll see you soon.
See you soon. Bye bye. Have a nice day. Ciao.